He is a 3-time Moth Story Slam winner. He has been on the Story Collider. Please give it up for Danny Artese.
So, 5th grade was a big year for me. It was a year of a lot of change. A new town, new school, new friends. Well, the first 2 were a given. The third one, not so much. I had gone to the same school from preschool up through 4th grade, and I never had to make friends. We just were friends. And so I had never learned how to make friends. And so I started at this new school, and I figured out pretty quickly that it was going to be a challenge because at the very beginning of the school year, we had community circle, where we all had to bring, it was show and tell, but we called it community circle. And we all had to bring things to sort of introduce ourselves to the class. And all of the other boys in class brought cleats and baseball mitts and trophies. And it's not that I didn't have any records of my athletic achievement, it's just that mine were participatory ribbons from figure skating class. And I also thought it would be a great idea to bring a page from my Care Bears coloring book that yes, it was Grumpy Bear. I was just super proud because I had colored in the lines completely with markers. So I had always felt growing up a little different than the other boys. But at my old school, like they just let me be Storm when we played X-Men, and it was fine that I always wanted to play Little Mermaid and wanted to be Ariel. Like it just wasn't a problem. And so this was the first time that I kind of felt that it mattered. And in lieu of actual friends, I dove into reading, and I read a lot of R.L. Stine, and I'm a sophisticated reader, so I was reading Fear Street, not Goosebumps. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, yeah. But my absolute favorite were Sweet Valley High. And, I am amongst my people. Usually the response to that is, my sister read those, so thank you. It seems like you did. Excellent. So I now it's less natural, but this was my hair color when I was 10. I was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child growing up in Southern California, so as far as I was concerned, this was a documentary series that was preparing me for high school. Sweet Valley High, if you don't know, is about blonde-haired, blue-eyed, identical twins Elizabeth and Jessica Wakefield, and it follows their adventures and misadventures in school and love. And I knew that by reading it, I was ready for high school. Now, it probably did not help my cause that I read these books during every recess and every lunch, and whenever anybody came up to me and asked, "What are you reading?" my answer was, "A book." And I went like that. But by the end of the school year, I did manage to make some friends, all girls, and I also, in the last few weeks of school, got my first girlfriend. Yeah. Her name was Shannon, and we bonded over the fact that we both considered our favorite breakfast food to be French toast. Because when you're 10 years old, that's all it takes. And we did all of the things that young couples do. We went to Sandra Bullock romantic comedies, and we compared the flavors of the crayons at Red Robin, and and it was a beautiful thing. And you know, there were maybe some signs that I wasn't meant to have a girlfriend. Sweet Valley High, figure skating. But the biggest sign was Kevin. Kevin was also new to the school that year, and so you know how that happens with the new kids, you sort of get forced together. And Kevin just always looked like he had come in from the cold. He just had like these little pink cheeks. And I remember very clearly thinking, if I was a girl, that I would think Kevin was cute. And when you were 10 years old, there's a big difference between thinking a boy is cute and identifying the circumstances under which you would think he was cute. And I was not ready to cross that line just yet. Now, going forward to the end of the school year that I went through, admiring Kevin from afar and Shannon at the end of the year up close. there was an auction arranged by the PTO, and they had solicited donations from celebrities and TV shows and things like that, of signed posters and memorabilia. And the way that we were going to be able to bid on these items to send us off to middle school, it was our grand farewell from elementary school, was not with real money, but with money that we had earned for every page of reading we had done recreationally. So suddenly, my lack of friends for the first 8 months of the school year made me the richest boy in school. Much like the plot of Sweet Valley High number 16, Rags to Riches. I had over $10,000 because we got $1 for every page that we read. There are 144 books in the series, y'all. So the day of the auction, we had gotten, or prior to the day of the auction, we had gotten little brochures with an indication of all the items that would be up for bid. And so we were able to kind of choose where we wanted to spend our money. And there were a few things that I had kind of earmarked, like the Reese's Pieces calculator with buttons shaped like Reese's Pieces, the illustrated children's biography of Joan Baez, and one big item that I knew was going to be really popular that I needed to save up a lot of my money for because it's from a really popular TV show, and I wanted to use that leverage of having the most money to win. So I set aside the bulk of my money for that. Now, to be fair, every student got a copy of Boyz II Men's Cooley High Harmony CD so that no one would go home empty-handed. Just give you a little cultural, timely reference. I'm not old enough to have read Sweet Valley High in its first run, just so you know. It had been around a while. There's nothing wrong if you are, birthday people. I love you all. So anyway, on the day of the auction, I had my money set aside for my calculator and my book, and they came up for bid, and I got them because I had a lot of money. And Shannon, who was not quite the intellectual that I was, and did not have as much money as I did, really wanted, it was a lithograph of Garfield signed by Jim Davis. And so she asked if I would help if her money was not enough for it. And of course, because I was a good boyfriend, I said that I would. And so her item came up for bid, and it was a hot commodity. There were a lot of bids for a Garfield lithograph autographed in 5th grade with the 10-year-old set. And so the bids went higher and higher, and eventually she got through her money, and it was time for me to kick in. And it got very quickly down to me and Mike Kazanji, who had the second most money in school. And he didn't have a girl he was bidding for. So we kept going higher, and the bids were going up by hundreds of dollars, which is the equivalent of a Sweet Valley High book at a time. And it's going higher and higher and higher, and it's just the two of us. Everyone else has dropped out, and it gets to the point that I have reached the cap of what I have set aside for Shannon's Garfield lithograph because I need my item too. And she says, you know, oh, please, Danny, I feel like he's going to drop out really soon. Please keep going. And to be fair, I had made some savings on my Joan Baez illustrated biography, so I had a little extra money, so I kept bidding, and I kept bidding. But then it hit a point where I was not going to have enough money. And in perhaps the most glaring sign that I was just not meant to have this girlfriend, at least, sold to Mike Kazanji. But I didn't have time to mourn. I didn't have time to feel too bad for her because my item was coming up soon. And I had to gear up. And at this point, you guys, Mike Kazanji had spent most of his money, so there was no one in my way. It was happening. I was ready. I was going to spend as much as it took. And so the opening bid came in. I bid. Somebody else bid higher. I bid again. Then nobody else bid. Because apparently, I had slightly overestimated the popularity of this particular program with the 5th grade set. But no matter, I was the proud owner of an 8x10 glossy photograph signed by the entire cast of the Golden Girls. Spin-off, Empty Nest. Yes. Which also starred Estelle Getty as curmudgeonly neighbor Sophia Petrillo. And I have it here. And so, Dreyfus signed it too, the dog. And so, although Shannon was not only my first girlfriend, but my last girlfriend, and I started paying a little bit closer attention to some of those signs, I will always have my golden girl.
Comes the word.
I love you, Danny.
I love you, Robin.